Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message. Namaste and greetings. How are we doing today? Are you ready by any chance to slither and slime to the divine? You're not sure? Well, let me start with a question. Do you wish to be happy? And maybe we won't say, do you wish? Do you want to be happy? Now, it's probably a foolish question because who doesn't want to be happy? I'm pretty sure the vast majority of people who are in a healthy state of mind desire happiness. At one time, we thought we had to be, quote unquote, well to be happy, but now, based upon the research, mental health research, etc., we now understand that happiness comes first. Happiness helps us to be well. Breathe that in. So, what do we do with that? So, how do we get to, if happiness precedes wellness, then how do we get to happiness to get to wellness? So, let me ask this question. Do we understand why this one precedes this one? Do we understand why happiness precedes this? Because when we answer this question, when we really understand, do we wish to be happy? And the answer is yes. Then what would it mean for you to be happy? Not do happy, not acquire happy, not purchase happy, be happy. What's required for you to be happy? Because that will lead to you being well. So let's consider this week what it means to move through some of the not so pleasant experiences that then give us the space to finally arrive at what we refer to as sublime. What is the sublime aspects of how we could live our lives? And are you willing to make the necessary shifts and changes to get there? So, if you are by any chance, then let us begin. What does it mean to slither? Who or what slithers? What is slime? What does it mean to be slimy? And what is sublime? What does it mean to be or experience the sublime? So let's start with the first one, slither. Now, this might also be slimy, but regardless, either way it goes, it gives us the idea of what it means to be close to the ground and dirty. We may even think of course, snakes, because the word slither is very associated with snakes. But do we know one of the reasons why? We may or may not know the biblical reference when God cursed the serpent to basically slither all of the days of its life because, it said, on your belly you shall go. So it's a punishment. So the snake slithers as a punishment. Now, the symbolic meaning, it's not just about physical degradation, but it also represents a state of humiliation. We could say shame, we could say guilt, but it's some form of being forced to be low. So, what about slime? Why do kids have a fascination with making or playing in slime? I would have loved to have seen Tracy on any of the, kid network shows where they drop slime on them like these three, especially the young man in the upper corner who's taking it into his mouth. I would love to see Tracy. Nonetheless, slime. What's the fascination with being dirty, being slimy, being icky? You might be tempted to avoid the messiness of daily living for the tranquility of stillness and peacefulness. This, of course, would be an attachment to stillness. And like any strong attachment, it would lead to delusion because it arrests development and it short circuits the cultivation of wisdom. Pause. Say what? When we try to avoid the messiness, when we try to make our lives so perfect that there's no upset, there's no frustration, there's nothing out of place, that everything is ordered and pristine and everything's labeled and everything. This is one reason why a lot of people engage in dun, 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 toxic positivity, because they are attached to the idea of what it means to be positive all the time. I am happy and highly favored, and all is well. There is nothing out of place in my life, for my steps are ordered, and I am divinely in the right place at the right time, always. I never have gas. I'm never bloated. My body works in perfect order with ease and grace at all times. I'm in a good mood always, every day. So these people who refuse to even acknowledge what does John Kabat-Zinn say? It arrests development and short circuits the cultivation of their wisdom. So rather than avoid messiness, think of it this way. If you were a surfer, would it make sense for you to try to avoid getting wet? If you were a potter, does it make sense for you to do your best to get no clay splatter on you? It's got to be perfect and it's got to be clean. Doesn't make sense for an auto mechanic to not get oil on themselves or greasy. Messiness is a part of our lives. As is often quoted, no mud, no lotus. No messiness, no wisdom. Now note, this is not saying we must suffer, because there are those who say we must suffer. No, you do not need to suffer to be enlightened, to develop wisdom. But life is messy. Now we could discuss, well, what does messy mean? And that could be a whole different conversation. But make sure you are differentiating between the concept of, for I must suffer in order to, no, you don't. but embrace the messiness. Relinquish the idea that everything has to be perfect based upon some indoctrinated idea of perfection. Because only by going there can we truly take in the vast vista of what it means to be and experience the sublime. And the sublime need not be tranquility and stillness. The sublime could be in the midst of great laughter and ruckus and, going to a pride parade. There's a lot of things to see and hear and smell and just all kinds of stuff. And in the midst of that chaotic beautifulness, there is the sublime. Keep that in mind. So once again, in the midst of the messiness, in the midst of the chaos, are we trying to structure perfection so much that we are actually short-circuiting the cultivation of our wisdom? Happiness must be based on an inward sense of security, a sense of belonging to life and to each other, a desire to give, to be kind, to be compassionate, and to be able to put ourselves in another person's position. Most of our unhappiness comes from our relationships with others. If we cannot be happy unless some other individual or group of individuals admires us, loves us, follows us, clicks like and subscribe, then we have not yet realized that every person is complete within themselves. For when we reach back to the true self, which is that which God is as us, we shall have penetrated to the innermost depths of all beings, all people, and all things. Does our happiness rely on something external or someone external being something versus being who and what they are? And we are being who and what we are, and that our own happiness is self-generated. If I base my happiness on Tracy doing or being a certain way, then my happiness is forever like a slot machine. I put the coin in, I pull it, I have no idea. Cherry, lemon. I'm not happy because Tracy, whatever. Put the coin in. Lemon, bar. Versus I'm happy in and of myself. My happiness is not dependent upon Tracy doing, being, my sons doing, being, the grandkids doing, being, my family member. Like, it's not the government doing, being. My happiness is me. It's my business. It's what goes on in my consciousness, in my emotions. Now, there are things within that, because I am a firm believer in the both and. I can feel a sense of separation or sadness or grief when I don't associate or socialize or get visits from the grandkids or my sons or whatnot, but I'm still happy in and of me, both and. But the vast majority of people make their happiness dependent upon some external outside thing. Now, how do we engage in relationship Because if we truly understood empathy and had empathy, then it would connect us more in life-affirming and healthy ways. Our mental health, our spiritual health, our social health, like all of it would be very, very much improved. But we are so dependent upon people satisfying our needs that it prevents us from actually opening up and connecting with other expressions of God. So what is empathy? Effective empathy, the ability to respond to other people's emotions appropriately. Somatic empathy, the ability to feel what another person is feeling. Cognitive empathy, the ability to understand someone's response to a situation. Now, empathy is not sympathy. Empathy is active, sympathy is passive. Empathy is understanding someone's feelings as if they were your own. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone from your own viewpoint. Empathy gets to the root of the problem and offering comfort. Sympathy, offering unsolicited advice and feedback while passing judgment. So it's extremely important to have a very clear understanding of what does it mean to be in a space of empathy. Are we genuinely curious about what other people are thinking and feeling? Are we genuinely listening when we listen actively and consciously? Are we seeking to build connection and relationship? Or are we so isolated and distant from this that one may question if we are potentially exhibiting sociopathic tendencies, narcissistic sociopathic tendencies, because we are so self-absorbed that we don't care about others except for what they can give to it, like a vampire. I really don't care about you, but give me your blood. Blah, blah. I was just giving you a chance to, because I know that vampire thing was funny. I was giving you a chance to, anyway. Empathy. How do you see another person's world? Understanding their feelings, appreciate them as a human being and a divine expression of God. And how do you communicate that you understand them? You understand what's going on. You understand what they're feeling. Because all of this is an expression of how we move through Slither Slime to Sublime. How we move through the messiness of life, understanding divine harmony and order in the scope of what it means to be whole, perfect, and complete. Because how we relate to other beings, knowing that God is all there is, how we relate to other beings is how we relate to the divine. And our inability to be empathic is dismissive of the divine. We speak of action and reaction, cause and effect, and we're right. But how often do we key the sequence of events back to the thing that acts, the thing that produced the action that produced the reaction. The sequence of the creative cause with us starts with absolute intelligence, then the word, then the law, and then the thing. That is the sequence of the creative order. So what do you see? You see Bruce Lee doing what? Kicking that man into them boxes, but you see Bruce Lee kicking him into boxes. Okay, so if I were to ask you, when does the kick begin? The instruction often given by martial art teachers is a somatic guide to the concept of kime, focus or power. It teaches students that the force for a kick or a punch originates from their core, their hara, their abdomen. It's their center of gravity, rather than just the specific limb, and that it involves an emotional and physical focus that unfolds through practice. It cultivates or is cultivated through practice. So again, I ask, when does the kick, or where does the kick begin, or the punch? Where does it begin? Think back to the creative process. For this to happen, the place where it begins, the consciousness. There is the subconscious, because at a certain point, the person isn't thinking kick. They do kick. And because it's become an unconscious or subconscious instinctual reaction. Because if you had to think about it, it's not possible. So it becomes a natural flow through practice, cultivated through practice. But it starts in mind, heart, and spirit. Then it moves through body, moves through the limbs, it generates the force, and then shows up in, through, and as the specific kick or block or strike. Now, we could look at it as, if we were looking at the biomechanics of it, it starts with a fighting stance, begins in the position, you chamber it by lifting your knee. Yeah, we could do all that, right? Like you could break it down. But nonetheless, all of these still begin, quote unquote, internally. Any outward change we desire to experience begins internally. This is why we are invited to look at the messiness of the world, political corruption, deceit, fascism, poverty, racism, all of the things. Trace back through the creative process and identify what is the consciousness, what are the belief patterns that are moving through to make this thing show up. And if we want this thing to change, we change this. If we do not want pumpkins to grow, we need to stop planting pumpkin seeds. So, once again, if we have a strong picture, strong image, or mental concept of what we desire, and we hold to that, we keep that mental equivalent, regardless of any circumstances or conditions, then we must, sooner or later, manifest it according to the concept. In time, through evolution and law, the conception becomes or comes to the moment of birth. It becomes the birth, it becomes the expression or the projection into the objective world. This is the way of nature. Because the law is all of creation. So, what is the picture? Do you have a strong picture or mental concept of what you desire, not just for yourself, but for the entirety of the planet? Do you have a strong mental picture of what it would look like for a world that works for all? Do you have a strong mental picture or mental concept of what it would look like for your life to truly work for you the way you desire? Not the way you've been settling for it, but the way you would truly desire it to be. Therefore, the sequence of the creative order, or the way the law and the word work, is as follows. First of all, now keep this in mind, this is the way it works for everything. So even the creation of the Klan and the Nazis and all this, it works the same. Poverty, racism, sexism, it all works the same. First of all, absolute intelligence. Next, it's word or thought. Following this, the law is set into motion. For the word is the law of mind in action. Then, at the end of the sequence, is the creation or the formation of the word in definite and specific circumstances, situations, or creations, which are the logical, inevitable, mathematical, and mechanical reactions of the law of cause and effect as it shows up through the law to the creative word. It's all connected. What's in our consciousness? How do we mental equivalence? Well, my book that's coming out soon is what it's talking about. Thoughts, beliefs, consciousness, words, the ways that we communicate, emotions and feelings, and our actions. How are all of these things tied together, creating the fabric of our lived reality? What do you see right now on your screen? You see someone in the process of taking a picture. But is this where it begins? Now, the loading of the camera, assuming we're talking about, back in my era, back when I was in high school in the Art Institute, yes, sir, we didn't have the digital camera. We actually had to load film. But let's say today, digital camera, you don't have to load film, but you got to put the I don't know what it's called right now, but the thing, you know what I'm talking about. Tracy knows what I'm talking about. Put it in the chat, Tracy. Put it in the chat. The thick, the little card that you, anyhow, it starts there, but it also starts with you charging the battery. Just, right? So there are things that need to be done before you can actually take the picture. So once you've loaded or put the little memory disk thing, whatever it's called, in the camera, the battery is loaded and charged. Then you go and you start looking around to select, what do I want to take a picture of? And once you've selected what you want to take a picture of, You aim, you check, is it blurry? Did it come out the way I want it to come out? If it came out the way you wanted it to come out, you move on, you take more pictures or whatnot. But eventually you then go and you develop it if it's actual film, or you upload it and you edit it through Adobe Photoshop or whatever you're going to do. But it doesn't even stop there, because then it goes into something else. You're either printing it, creating a photo album, creating art or pictures for your home, or gifts to give, or an art gallery of photos. And then the process repeats. It's always moving. Load, charge, find, shoot, download, or edit, or print, or develop, select and print and crop and frame, and again. Now, why do I mention that? Because it's the creative process. It's what we just talked about in terms of how cause and effect happens. It happens the same way, whether it's taking a photograph, cooking, preparing, and eating a meal, driving to the grocery store. All of these things begin as a thought. Progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Don't change your mind and don't change your life. Can't change your mind, can't change your life. But if you change your mind, change your thinking, change your mental equivalent, then your life will change. So evolution, the ultimate meaning of evolution, for what we're talking about in spiritually or whatnot, cannot occur if we're not changing our mind, changing our mental equivalents. So the question becomes, are you effectively changing your mental equivalents? So when we come back to Slither, Slime, and Sublime, let's look at it as an acronym. Ready? Slither. Self-loathing, lovelessness, insecurities, trauma, hate, escapism or being escapist, and resentment. When we slither, we are involved or engaged in one or more of these. Slime. Self-defeating, lies, incapable, mediocre, and ego-driven in non-life affirming ways. Same thing. When we are enveloped in the slime, some version of this, and once again, I'm not talking about them kids playing that's for fun. I'm talking about the emotional concept of non-life affirming slime, etc. That's what I'm talking about. Are we engaging in any of these? Are we trapped by any of these? Sublime, serenity, understanding, bliss, liberation, I am, mastery, and enlightenment. Living a life that is sublime means we are engaged in one or more of these. The ultimate goal would be all of these being our embodied expression. You are one thing only. You are a divine being. An all-powerful creator. You are a deity in jeans and a t-shirt. And within you, the allness that you are, dwells the infinite wisdom of the ages and the sacred creative force of the all that is, all that will be, and all that there ever was. And what it is, you are. Breathe. So our invitation is to do more than simply think or do more than simply believe. Practice. Evolution is an eternal unfoldment. Life reveals itself to whoever is receptive to it. Are you receptive to the sublime of life? Then what's your practice? How are you cultivating it and nurturing it, embodying it and expressing it? And no matter how imperfect we appear to be, I can't balance my checkbook. I'm always running on E. This one nose hair is always scratching and sticking out my nose. No matter how imperfect we appear to be. Remember when I used to have a full head of hair and, now my forehead used to be here. Now my forehead, it starts here. I used to be able to bend over and touch my toes. I was flexible. Now I can't even see my toes. No matter how imperfect we appear to be, that which God is knows itself as us, as absolute perfection, completeness, and the divine. And the joy and delight of God, as Holmes said himself, itself, is in our act. You knew I was going to remix this because you know it. So remix. No matter how imperfect we appear to be, God is perfection. God is completeness. God is divinity, joyfulness, and delight. The truth is that what God is must also be exactly what we are. Therefore, in our actions, the perfection of God must also be. Breathe. As we have discussed for the last couple of gatherings, the idea of spending too much time thinking rather than doing, knowing and thinking but not applying. As Dr. Holmes said in Sermon by the Sea, find me 1,000 people, 1,000 people who know what religious science is. They know what science of mind is. They know how to use it. They know how to live it. Then the world will no longer be famished. How important it is that each one of us in our own simple way shall live from God to God, with God, in God, and to each other. Empathy. Breathe. Heaven is right where you are standing, and it is the place to train. And according to what we say we believe, Dr. Holmes, we believe that heaven is within us. Heaven is right where you are standing. Heaven is right where you are. It is what you are. Heaven is within us, and we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it and practice it, because that is precisely the place where the training, the activity is expressed. Our evolution is the spiritual equivalent of the phrase that some people use referring to children when they say they are coming into their own, or when we speak of a coming of age story, or when an LGBTQIA2+ person feels safe and comfortable enough to come out. All of these speak to our evolutionary process of becoming more of who and what we are. It's being and expressing who and what we already are. Breathe. Do not fear failure. Not failure, but low aim is the crime. In great attempts, it is glorious even to fail. Now, note, how many of us will not take action because we are afraid to fail? But it is precisely the low aim, the lack of action that, according to Bruce Lee, the lack of action that is the crime. Failing isn't the crime. Failing, the messiness of life, is a part of trial and error. No one was generally born knowing how to put a car together as a newborn baby. How does it put that with the spark plugs? You learn these things, but in learning them, you are going to mess up. 1 + 1 is 9. No, it's not. I'm such a failure. I don't know how to do math, and I don't know how to. Failure is a part of growing, part of how you learn to make spring rolls. I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm over it. But failure is a part of the process. What we do after the failure is where the glorious nature then comes in, because are we willing to do whatever we need to do to learn and change and evolve? The only one who truly fails is the one who stops trying. People should try again, fail again, and fail better. Learn and fail better. So in reference to what Dr. Holmes gave us at the Sermon by the Sea, knowing what science of mind and spirit is: awareness, realization, transmutation, art. Got that? He said, no, show me 1,000 people who know what this is, who practice it, eat, embody, apply, transcend, who know, who practice, who live it as a way of life. Act. Actualize consciousness, truth. When we are doing these things as a daily practice, then we have no choice but to, according to the law of creation, the law of mind and action, we have no choice but to manifest the desired result. But we have to do it. Can't just think about it and can't just talk about it. The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 gives us the means to actively know, practice, and live in ways that make our lives sublime. But like a potter, we must get messy and covered in clay. We must put this teaching, we must put the teaching to use in real, relevant, relatable, and revolutionary ways if we are to create a world that truly works for all. Are we ready to commit to doing that work? This week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first, and if it resonates with you, I invite you to repeat it the second time. Daily, I come out of the chrysalis as an ever-evolving, ever-awakening being, and I am coming into myself as the living, loving, healing, embodiment of God. Together, daily, I come out of the chrysalis as an ever-evolving, ever-awakening being, and I am coming into myself as the living, loving, healing embodiment of God. This week's journal questions. In what areas of my life, physically, emotionally, socially, etc., do I avoid the messiness or the chaos? What would my life look like if it were sublime right now? Or if it is sublime, what does it look like? What do I know about religious science? What do I practice? How do I live it? What is the evidence? In what ways am I coming into my own as a master of my life? When does my fear of failure or my addiction to perfection hinder my evolution or short circuit my cultivation of wisdom? What is my relationship with fear and empathy? What am I still putting off because of it? And lastly, using the analogy of the photographer, what is the creative order? The process for creating a world that works for all, which includes my life working for me. Breathe. The practice for this week is, drum roll please, have a conversation about Slither, Slime, Sublime, the acronym for Slither, Slime, and Sublime. What do each of them invite you to do as a practice? And breathe. As we enter into that space, we refer to as prayer. And because Tracy said that Reverend Ray always prays long, today I will simply say, I engage in the creative process. Knowing how cause and effect, the law of mind in action works, the entire creative process, my mental equivalence, I understand. I know, I practice, and I live. And my life is sublime, and I create a world that works for all. And so it is. And so it is. Much love and appreciation, blessings. We are approaching the holiday season very rapidly. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and approaching Happy New Year. Love and appreciate you. See you during the week somewhere or right back here next week.